Yes, it's What a Boast, a celebration of Reeves and Mortimer. Please welcome your hosts for this podcast, MJ Price and Paula Wiseman. Hello and welcome to Quite a Boast, a podcast dedicated to the work and genius of Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer. My name is Matt Price, founder of the Reeves and Mortimer Depository of Curious Stuff Facebook group.
And I am Paula Wiseman, creator of the Divine Comedians podcast. Today we speak to one of the UK's finest actors. If you like watching really good telly, then you will know this man's work. Booze Cruise, Northern Lights, Waterloo Road, Early Doors and Shakespeare in Hathaway, to name but a few of his triumphs. He also appeared on a number of occasions with Jim and Bob, most memorably as the Mermaid Hotel's put upon dog's body, the majestically mulleted Mark in Catterick. Please enter the Novelty Island paddock, Mark Benton. Hey!
Hello!
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mark!
Hello there.
Thanks
Very
for joining
nice.
us. Oh, thank you. I'll try.
Oh, but you've done it all, Mark, haven't you? I mean, you've had such this incredible, long, successful career. But I mean, you know, going back in time a little bit, were you always a comedy fan? How did you even get into the acting comedy? Did it come quite naturally to you?
Well, I guess, a lot of people sort of think I'm a comedian and I'm a proper actor. I mean, I when I was young, my uncle, God bless him, was an actor. And he used to come back in the summer holidays and stay with us from drama school with his best pal, who was, do you remember The Warriors? Film The Warriors, the main guy, Michael Beck, the blonde, handsome guy. He was my uncle's best friend at the time. And they used to come back and I kind of, I really wanted to be like my uncle. He was a bit of a hero man. And so I just started doing anything I could get into, really, any local stuff. I went to Tech College and did a drama course. And then I auditioned for, I only had enough money for two. Well, Mum and Dad only had enough money for two drama schools. So I auditioned for Central and RADA. And Central was the one I wanted to go to because my uncle had gone there. And I didn't get in. Tried again when I was 20. Thought, like, this is my last throw of the dice. Didn't get into Central, going to RADA. So I went to RADA. And then, do you know what? I guess, comedy, I did a lot of comedy. And, I was always wanting to make people laugh when I was younger. And I kind of fell into it, really. When you first leave drama school, I got an agent and I basically took whatever job I could get. And a lot of those were comedy, but a lot were drama as well. So, because I've been lucky enough to I sort of stride the two, really. Because I've done comedy, I've done drama, I've done comedy drama. So I've been lucky enough to do a lot of different stuff. And obviously comedy it's been a big part of my career and something I very much enjoy.
A lot of people we've chatted to on here, because of obviously working with Vic and Bob, they've started out on the live comedy circuit and gone into acting from that. Is that nothing you ever experimented with?
I'm terrified. I've often thought about stand-up, but it's something that terrifies me because I don't think I'm thick-skinned enough. Yeah. And I've got, lots of comedian friends of mine who go, you'd be fine, you'd be all right. But, I have to admire comedians. A good friend of mine, Sue Codula, she's a brilliant comedian. I was saying to her about, I can't, if I failed one night, and fell flat on my backside, I'd be like, I couldn't get up the next night and do the same thing again, because I don't think I'm thick-skinned enough. Yeah. So it's something that I'd love to have a go at, but it absolutely terrifies me. It's not and I don't want this to sound big-headed, but it's not the sort of comedy that bothers me. It's the, how do you deal with an audience that doesn't like you? How do you deal with it if you're having a bad night? And I think that, if you like Jim and Bob, they don't care. But, I'm too kind of thin-skinned, I think, to do it. Thought of it now makes me shift.
Yeah. No, we were saying just now, like, we were just saying about the nationwide ads that you did years ago. A lot of people still remember you from those, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, well, I was lucky. I mean, it was funny though, because I'd gone up for a lot of ads and things, and it got to the point with ads because it's quite a demoralising thing. You know, you go for adverts, and it's can be a bit of a cattle market. And, you know, you're going in, and usually you walk in the room, and the creatives are there all eating noodles and ignoring you and staring at the screen. And you're like, I used to make a point of going around every single one of them, shaking around, going, "Hello, nice to meet you," because I thought it was so rude. And I just got so sick of going in for adverts, and you know, it's just like you're just another one in a long line of people. And I said to my agent, I said, I don't want to go for adverts anymore because it's too depressing and you know, upset when you go in and you just ignored. And then basically, what happened was Armando Iannucci was directing them, and I'd done some stuff. I think I'd done some stuff with Steve Coogan by then, and so I knew Armando a bit. And I just got a call saying, "Would you like to come and do these test commercials?" Which is basically you go in, there's a sort of hastily put up set in a studio, and you film some commercials, and then they take it to, in this case, Nationwide, and Nationwide say yeah or nay basically to the campaign. And so I went in. I remember saying to my wife, "Oh God, I don't want to go. I've got to wear a suit." And she went, "Oh look, just go. It'll be fun. You'll have a good afternoon." So I went, and of course, it was great. It was me and Robert Webb were doing the commercials. He was playing all the kind of customers, and it was great fun. And Armando's he's wonderful. I mean, as you know, he's a genius, really.
Yeah.
So we shot these adverts, but we also would improvise a lot. So we'd shoot the script, and then we'd kind of improvise and make stuff up. And Armando was just sort of shout stuff out, do this, say that, and then I would do stuff. And basically, the Nationwide went for it, and they said, "Oh, and we want him to do it." So it was like, great, okay. And so I always loved doing them because they were like sketches, because it was Armando, and you know, all the daft stuff that we did, like, you know, bottle of bubbly and all the stuff, that was all made up on the spot, really. And yeah, it was great fun. Apart from the people just shouting brand new customers only, literally all the time.
All the time, yeah.
People forget how these big comedy directors, film directors in general, how many adverts and music videos and things they've done in the past. People like Armando and Peter Richardson in a comic strip and people like that.
The genius about Armando is that, you know, he would, because generally adverts, it's very, very precise. You know, you have to do exactly what's on the script, and there's always like I said, a lot of creatives going, "No, we want this, want that." And the brilliant thing about that was when we started, I think we were a bit like jittery because we were improvising and making stuff up. But then, of course, as soon as they came out and people loved them, then they sort of left us to it then, which was great. So then every time I did it, it didn't feel like I'm doing an advert, really. It felt like a sketch. So it was it was great fun.
Moving on to Vic and Bob, can you remember when you first discovered them as a viewer, as a fan, or were you a fan?
I was a fan. Big Night Out, really. I remember seeing that first in a drunken haze, thinking, "What the hell is this?" As I guess most people did, and I fell in love with them, and you know, and I still am. And I remember the first time I worked with them was Randall and Hopkirk, and I remember when I first met them. And of course, I was a bit like, "Oh my God, it's Vic and Bob," you know, loved them. And they were a bit, they were a bit off with me. They were a bit like kind of standoffish. And I was kind of thinking, "Oh my God, what's going on? What have I done wrong?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, did they not like me?" Or, I mean, they weren't rude, but just a sort of bit kind of reticent, really. And I remember once I started getting to know them, basically I started talking about prog rock, and then we sort of bonded over a bit of King Crimson. And I said, "Oh, why were you so sort of standoffish?" And I remember Bob saying, "Oh, well, it's like, you know, you're like a proper actor in that, and where, you know." And I was like going, "Oh my God, you're like icons. You changed the face of comedy. What are you talking about?" And and then, you know, from then on we just had a laugh. You know, it's great.
As I say, you can tell from Bob's book, especially, and he says how nervous he was about acting and being around actors. He didn't feel, you know, like a fish out of water. So which come across as being shy, but it can come across as being rude. Yeah.
I mean, that is them. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about they are shy. Jim's shy too. And I think because of what they do when they're together, and because of the way they are, I think people just assume they're like that in real life, and they're not. Bob's very shy. You very rarely see Bob out of work. Yeah. And Jim's the same. Yeah, really shy when he meets new people. Because I do think there's a lot of expectation when people meet them. That they're going to be zany and funny, and of course they are funny.
Yeah.
But I think they have to feel. I think they have to feel comfortable in their surroundings.
It's crazy though, in it, to do what they do and have that shy quality to them.
Well, I think that's the funny thing about actors, comedians in general. It's like you have a public persona, and your true self can be very different, and I think, because I can be quite shy in certain situations, and I think it is that tricky thing that people's expectations of you is one thing. And, I remember I was walking around Sainsbury's once with the kids when they were little, and someone come up to us and tapped us on the arm and said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And you're like, "I'm doing my shopping." What do you think we all have like butlers and that, And it is that funny thing that, I grew up in a council estate, biggest council estate in Cleveland. And, my dad was a lorry driver. So you kind of go, well, I just happened to fall into this path. It's no better or worse than anybody's career path, really. It's just, it's different because you're in the public eye.
No, it's a good episode of Randall Hopkirk, that one. Paul Whitehouse is in it as well, isn't he? So a few comedy legends on that one.
Yeah, Paul's great as well. I've been really lucky, and the people like Paul, Vic and Bob, Steve Coogan, just great people and great to be around. And I think especially the thing about Vic and Bob, like I said, I think they changed the face of comedy, along with people like the Fast Show and stuff. But Vic and Bob's comedy was so unique, and still is, that you just, it was like, I remember watching, I think it was it 8 out of 10 Cats, or it was something where I think Sean Locke was just bamboozled by Jim telling a story about a hot air balloon. Completely random and completely wonderful. But they were a bit like flummoxed, and I love that about them. I love that sort of the madness that they can portray, and some of the stuff they come up with, you go, where did that come from? The thing is with Jim and Bob is they're very much, it's like Tommy Cooper. Do you remember that gag with Tommy Cooper where the stage, the curtains opened and there was no one there, and then you could hear Tommy Cooper going, "Oh, it was in this room, was it in that?" And he was lost backstage, and the audience are in stitches, And I think the thing with Jim and Bob is like they could just sit on stage and you'd laugh. They are. It's like people say people have got funny bones. And they have, they're just funny. And when Bob tells his stories on Would I Lie to You, they're just great, aren't they? You just carried away with it. And, I love, there's such a kind of gentle side to them both. They're endearing. And I'm a big fan as well as a friend, as friends with them.
So I think the next thing you worked on was the legendary Catterick. As Mark.
It was.
Oh man!
First of all, what a look!
Series.
What a look!
And Matt, the reason I'm called Mark in that was because it's my name. They were like, "Oh, just put that. That's you. We've just written Mark when your lines are there." I remember when we were talking about it, and they said, "Oh, we'll send you the script. We're gonna have a read through." And I got a full script for the first episode, and then I think it was a full script for the second one, and then the third one said something like, "They're driving down and then they land in the river and they get out and walk." That was the third script. Like, what? And I remember originally it was we sat down for the read through, and originally I was supposed to be Tim Healy's characters as well, but I think they'd met Tim on something and gone, "Oh yeah, come on Tim, we want you to do it." So then it was like, "Oh, you're not playing these characters anymore, they're Tim now." It's like, "Oh, okay then, all right then." And that read through was just hilarious. We just laughed all the way through it, as I did with the program.
Oh, we had such a distinctive look, though, didn't it? Like the character.
Well, I remember saying,
I
said to Jim, I said, "Why am I dressed as a Confederate cavalry boy with a Rod Stewart hair?" And he went, "Because it's funny." I mean, that was it. I was like, great. You know, me being my kind of actor head going, you know, what's the reason?
Yeah.
Like, you know, was it a deep-seated hurt in his childhood or something? And, you know, he was like, no, it's fun because it's funny. So like, okay, great. And I'd said, I remember originally I'd said to the wonderful makeup department, I'd said, oh, because I've got an underbite, so my bottom teeth stick out. So I was going, I want like big, massive teeth to go on the underbite, you know, big. And they were like, well, it might be quite difficult. So I ended up with the big false teeth to go on the top, which was honestly hilarious. And it took me about a week to learn to speak with them in because they were so big. I mean, it was a dream job. And, you know, I can honestly say I've never laughed as much as I did on that job. I mean, obviously there's the classic outtake.
The old blooper reel.
The wicker shit.
Outtakes.
The wicker shit, yeah.
But, you know, the thing is about that outtake, you only see, I think, about maybe 10 goes. I mean, it literally went on forever. I mean, it went on and on and on. You know, and the thing about corpsing is it gets painful. Yeah. So you're laughing on the outside, but inside you're dying. And you know, what you can't see is I've got Vic and Bob.
Why can't I do this?
Exactly, but I've got Vic and Bob there either side of the camera, right? And they're like laughing. And Bob does this thing when he laughs, he sort of rolls his tongue around his mouth like going, I'm not going to laugh. But then I started laughing, and then they went, oh, we'll turn round. So they turned round, and then I could see Bob's cheek going, and the cheeks were going laughter. So then it was like, oh, I've got to get out. And then there was me, Matt Lipsey, the director, and I think it was a cameraman and a sound man. Then they were laughing. So then they went out. I think in the end, I was only left with me and I think it was me and the camera operator, or me and Matt, the director. And then, you know, there was times I was corpsing because they were laughing outside. I could hear them. I mean, everyone was laughing. The whole cast and crew were laughing. It was like, it was so painful. And then you see it, I've got those big bloody teeth and that stupid wig on. I mean, honestly. But it just, I mean, we were all, the problem with Catterick, I think, we were all terrible corpses. Like Bob's a terrible corpse, and Jim and Matt's terrible corpse.
Oh, Matt's terrible, isn't he? You see some of the stuff that he does.
Honestly, he's brilliant. And Reeves is a corpse, and there's a brilliant outtake of Reeves with Jim. I Suzu Twooper. But it was like a dream cast, and you know, I was so pleased because I hadn't done. I mean, I'd done quite a lot at the time, but I wasn't sort of in that league. I'm not saying I am now, but you know, it was so wonderful. They were just like, right, when we were doing, I think it was just after Randall and Hopkirk, and was right, we're going to do a road movie, and you're with it. It's us three. We're on the road, and I was just chuffed to death, and you know, the wonderful stuff we got to do, like eating the goose gogs, and you know, just daft stuff, daft scenes that we just.
It's like the scene in the garden centre.
But it's like I think there's part of their comedy which is so childlike that I just adore it. That they do, you know, when you're messing around as a kid, you do daft things that are funny, and they still do them, you know, and that I think it appeals to that kind of the child inside. Certainly me, you know, their comedy is just, it's kind of. At the risk of sounding really wonky, it's very pure comedy because it's physical, it's funny, it's wordplay, and it's, you know, inspired by all those mad comedians of yore.
And you're going to do stuff you're not going to get on other jobs. I mean, the character of Mark basking on that rock, and he's mistaken as a sensual woman by Roy.
You know, let me tell you, I could have killed him because basically he had this idea about doing a mermaid on rock. So one lunchtime he says, oh wait, come on. And then we went with, I think it was the runner or someone, we went down to, it was Hythe went down to Hythe Beach, right? And he made me dress as a bloody mermaid and sit on these rocks on Hythe Beach with like people walking the dogs and stuff. And he just had this little kind of, not a cine camera, but you know, like a little camera. And he was filming me as the mermaid on the rocks. And I'm going, oh God, this is so embarrassing. So he filmed it, and of course, it was unusable, this footage. Yeah. And Matt Lipsey, the director, went, it's good, but let's do it again. So then I had to do it again, set up in this room. And it's I think it's put quite a few people off the dinner over the years.
That was fantastic. Yeah, so, and I think same year, then you moved on to Monkey Trousers.
Yeah, which was a brilliant. The astronaut's particular favourite.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
But again, Monkey Trousers was, because it was Steve Coogan and Jim and Bob. It was the kind of co-pro between them all. So again, an amazing bunch of people, just brilliant. And I remember we were doing the astronauts. It was hilarious because we had these, we were on these chairs that were like hydraulic. So you kind of go up and down like that, up right up the end, down, and they do it when you weren't expecting it. So we'd be doing this scene, gear with all the mustaches and beards and wigs and stuff. And then you'd be doing a line, and all of a sudden you'd just fly up in the air, and you wouldn't realise it. Honestly, it was hilarious, really funny, really great, and doing a terrible Geordie accent. That was great. It was, these are the memories you treasure, I think.
Oh, it's great. Again with Tim Healy on that one.
Oh, Tim was great. Brilliant. Very cold. Very, very cold. But, that's another thing about Jim and Bob. I think, they're very loyal. So they work with people. And if they like them, they'll go, oh, will you come and do this? Yeah. And like I said, I think the thing about Jim and Bob is there's a lot of comedians that are really competitive with each other, want to be best, and someone else is doing well, they don't like it. Whereas Jim and Bob are kind of outside of all that, really. I don't think they're bothered about what other people do. It's wonderful that they just carry on doing their thing, and long may it continue.
The other sketch you did, a Monkey Trouser, the regular one, was with Neil Morrissey as shouting policeman.
Shouting coppers.
Yeah.
I think I lost my voice the first time we did that. Yeah. It shouts so much, and obviously you've got to do it again and again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Mark. Yeah, it was Mark as well, yeah.
Reeves Thomas,
but by the end of it, I was like that. Oh, my God. But that's what I mean, Reeves, Mark Wotton. I mean, all class comedians and, inventive and brilliant. And, I was lucky enough to be there with them.
It's a great cast. I mean, hit and miss some of it, and it's so everyone's in it. But I think especially the astronauts and Bob's estate agent and the croc bobber. That's some of the best characters he's ever done. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think, don't you think, with Jim and Bob, though, it's like they're not afraid to fail. Yeah. So sometimes they'll do stuff that's not funny at all, and you go, oh my God. And then sometimes they do the funniest thing in the world. Yeah. But they just don't care. And I love the bravery of just going, oh, well, let's try it. Let's do that. Put that wig on, put that hat on. I love that. That's what I mean by that sort of childlike quality. It's almost like dressing up and, oh, we'll put that on and do a funny voice and we'll do this. I always remember when, Bob was doing Faith, the George Michael thing. I mean, it was just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And, all he was doing was just doing that funny dance and keeping his head pointed forward with the mask on. And you go, should that be as funny as it was? It's like when Jim did Lloyd Grossman, one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen. Yeah. But hilarious and kind of, you go, where did that come from? Where did that invention come from? How would you get from Lloyd Grossman to his version of Lloyd Grossman? Brilliant.
They've always ploughed their own furrow, haven't they? They've always just done what they think is funny.
And I do think, I take slight umbrage with certain television channels because I think they're not treated the way they should be. I think if Jim and Bob, I mean, thank God, they got another smell off. But, I think if they want to do a show, they should give them a show because you're guaranteed that you're going to have some stuff in their shows that you won't see anywhere else. And that will be hilarious. Yeah. And I think I feel slightly angry on their behalf because they wouldn't be angry. But you go, get them on telly, give them what they want. Bring back Shooting Stars, bring back, Smell Off. It's as long as they want to do it, I think they should be allowed to.
The House of Fools thing, wasn't it? They were convinced they were going to get another series.
Yeah,
just, for whatever reason, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in that, I think, but I couldn't. I think I was filming something else. But I mean, God, look at that first episode where he's pulling by the balls through the thing. I mean, just hilarious. Yeah, brilliant. And again, what a cast, Morgana, and just brilliant people.
What do you remember about your time as a guest on Shooting Stars?
Do you know what? It's different when you're with your mates, and because the mates. I mean, what I remember about is they called me Bent One on my name thing, which I thought was hilarious. And the sort of it's that all I remember about Shooting Stars really was just laughing. I think I just laughed from start to finish because it was just so funny. And I just, you know, when you're on something that you've watched, it's a very weird experience because I'm used to seeing Shooting Stars on telly, and then suddenly you're on it. And I remember being a bit kind of, I don't know what to say. What shall I say now? And feeling a bit kind of under pressure when they asked me. I think they asked me some question about pigeons or something. I can't remember what it was, or birds in the attic. And I remember being a bit, I don't know what to say. Such a good laugh and such a great, again, original show that, people still see Urano and Uvavu and the Dove from Above and all these things that stick in your mind and become legend, don't they?
Bob says some comments to you about your weight, which any other person on television would say that to you. Oh my God, where does that come from? But because Bob has that glint in his eye.
And the thing is, knowing them, they're so lovely that it's not meant with malice and it's not meant to embarrass you, so because you're right, like other people would say certain things and I'd be like, excuse me.
Yes.
But there's just something about them that I just love them, and it's like, that's also a sort of extension of what we'd be like in private, you know what I mean? Like there's very little difference the way we are, and I mean, obviously there's a big difference in things like Catterick, but like on Shooting Stars, that was like me and Jim and Bob.
Yeah,
that's like what we are all the time. So it was kind of no different to me, really.
And then a few years later, Jim came onto your show, Shakespeare and Hathaway.
Yeah, he did.
Oh man, what a series! Joe Joyner, she's so amazing.
Great. Yeah, no, that was a wonderful time. And I remember I'd suggested Jim, because I knew this part was coming up, and they jumped at the chance, and Jim was like, yeah, great, we'll do it. And we just had a ball. What a laugh. Again, I mean, the problem is when we get together, we just laugh all the time. So it's like, trying to do a scene and we just burst out laughing. And we did that. I mean, we did the scene. There's a scene where it's like a flashback and we're in the back of an ambulance, and I put the laughing gas on, and me and him we were just laughing, but then we actually started laughing, and it was great. And it was great to get him on as well, because, it's always lovely working with your mates. Yeah. And as I say, he's always a pleasure.
Yeah, when he started doing acting, aside from the comedy, he just started cropping up in these things. I think he's on an All Creatures Great and Small and a Miss Marple or something.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like that because I know, because Tony Pitts is a friend of ours who's in All Creatures, and I think he got Jim on. He said, "Oh, do you want to come on it, Jim?" And and I think that's why he ended up on it. And I think it's. But he's great. I mean, he did that thing about Morecambe and Wise, if you remember, where he played the dad. He was absolutely superb in that. He wasn't funny at all. He played it completely straight, as he did in Heaven. He was quite straight in that as well.
Oh, he's fantastic in Heaven. Yeah.
Yeah, and he can really do it. Whether he wants to do it, it's a different kettle of fish, but he certainly can.
Talking to Tony Pitts, I think you then went on to appear in the podcast series Curl Up and DI.
Curl Up and DI.
Was also in.
Oh man, it was. Loved it.
That was a mad experience. I mean, what happened? That was we were just coming out of lockdown. I think we might have been in the end of one of the lockdowns, and Tony had written, again, it's a bit like Catterick, really. He'd written sort of the first 1.5 episodes or 2 episodes or something, and he'd had some personal problems. So when we turned up, we were kind of right on the hoof. Like, Tony would come in and we'd all be there and sat around the room, and he'd be going, right, so you're going to say this and then you say that, and then we'd all written little bits and bobs and said, right, yeah, put that bit in and then put this bit in. And so we kind of constructed it as we went along. And it's funny because I listen to it now, and again, some of it is, I think it's hilarious, and some of it is terrible. And I love that kind of weirdness of it. I mean, it's hilarious. And for anybody who hasn't heard it, it's about 2 useless police, me and Kate Kelly, who've never solved a murder, and there's in this Slappy Bay, and they team up with these 2 hairdressers who would do impressions of all the TV cops that have ever been, and we kind of solved these mysteries together, and it was just hilarious. It was 10 days of pure joy. Morgana was in it. Burn Gorman. Oh my God, Burn Gorman.
Oh, I love Burn Gorman. He's amazing.
Oh, ultra talented and funny. And just a wonderful cast. Bill Fellows was in it, and just great. And again, another a deep joy. And I love listening to it, because you go, I know some people are going to listen to this and go, "What the hell is this?" But listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to this, I urge you to listen to that podcast.
I'll check it out.
I mean, that's the wonderful thing about podcasts. I mean, it's a difficult one, because I think Radio 4 is suffering because they're getting to make less and less comedy drama and radio plays, which I think is a great shame. But the flip side of it, I get podcasts is, like you guys you can make a podcast, you can do a podcast on something that you love, and it allowed us to make that podcast that would never see the light of day on Radio 4. They'd be like, we're not making that, especially when after scripts weren't written and we were improvising or doing it on the huff. And I think that's the joy of podcasts, because you can get stuff where you go, where did that come from? How did that happen? How did that materialize?
As you say,
I think
you can talk about anything and everything, can't you? Really, with podcasts,
exactly. Yeah, and I think it's like with that, there was, you can be rude, you can swear, and some of the stuff we were talking about was just ridiculous, and that was the joy of it. And I think we were top 10 on whatever podcast thing it was when it came out, which was brilliant. And it did have quite a while, because we were like, yes, a victory for us lot. Yeah, I didn't realise that the Alpha Yankee or spells out stuff. I didn't realise that until later on, when Tony had said, "Oh yeah, because it spells out things, like I'm going to murder you and things like that." And I hadn't realised, because I just thought, "Oh, they're going for a long time, don't they?" Oh man,
yeah. And you've done a couple of appearances with Jim on different shows on his podcast, for example, with Jules. Joey Ride. You did an episode of that.
I did, yeah, which was great. Yeah, great. Well, Jules is lovely as well. I've met Jules, I think, once at Jim's house. That's what I mean about them. They're really. I'm very proud to say that they're my friends. And Jim has always been supportive of me and very, complimentary and got me on stuff. And I think it's lovely, because I think in my game, you meet a lot of people who are acquaintances. And it's lovely, and you maybe don't see them for 10 years. Next time you see them, it's like you saw them yesterday. But I'm lucky enough to, and probably because of geographically we live quite close to each other. But to have remained proper friends with Jim and Bob, and it's been great that we get together outside and we talk about daft stuff. And I went on painting with Jim and Nancy, which was hilarious, because I can't paint.
That was a great episode.
Honestly, you got those daft hats out. It was brilliant. And, but we were on Holy Island, I remember, and Jim he got annoyed because he wanted us to paint the castle, and it was so windy. The sound guy went, "Can't do it up there because the wind's it's too much. We won't get any sound." And Jim was like, "Oh God!" And so then we went to this little bit with no wind, and there was nothing to paint. It was like a hill. Jim was like, "Well, we'll have to paint that then, I suppose," which I was quite happy about, because, as I say, I can't paint, so it didn't look too bad. Although I wouldn't have cared if it did look bad, actually. Yeah. You know what? Again, it's like, Jim and Nancy, and they're wonderful together. It's such a lovely couple, and Nancy's a good laugh. So again, it's like an afternoon out with your mate. Which is why I think it's, because a lot of those things you're not relaxed, and you think, oh, it's like I've done quite a few reality things with Robson Green, who's a friend of mine, and when you're with mates, you relax and the conversation is easy. So and it makes the program for me, because I think a lot of those programs is like I do with Robson, or like doing painting with Jim and Nancy. It's wonderful. It's about birds and everything, but a lot of the time you're looking at, it's their relationship that you buy into. So it's like, do you want to spend half an hour with Jim and Nancy looking at birds? It's not like, do you want to spend half an hour looking at birds? You know what I mean? So I think the thing that people really buy into is that relationship. And, obviously they're very in love, and it's a good laugh. And, like me being with them, it's our friendship. It's our daft, our daft messing about, daft laughing and mess about.
Yeah, talking about the connections and things, obviously through with Reese. We just saw you recently in the last episode of Inside Number 9.
Yeah,
I mean, that must have been incredible. Just the variation of people they had in that last episode.
Do you know, it was wonderful, and they are, again, very special group of people, and I'm counting all the league really: Jeremy, Mark, Steve, and Reese, and I remember because I think I was in series 1, Le Coucher, and it was so lovely to get the call saying, "Oh, will you come and be in the last episode?" And it was very hush hush. I'd sign NDA and stuff, so you couldn't talk about it. And it was lovely because I think they could get 50 people from the whole of the series, all the series, and it was just so lovely to be one of them. And it was great to see because so many friends were there, and so it was like a rap party. I think the idea was to have it at a rap party and then have a rap party. So it was such an amazing idea. And I can't wait to see. I mean, obviously they're doing the stage show, but can't wait to see what they go on to. And again, with those guys, Mark. I mean, I'm going to do a little bit in. Mark's doing a series called Bookish, and I'm going to film a little bit on that, a little cameo, because I wasn't available, unfortunately. But again, it's so lovely when people call on you again and go, "Oh, would you want to come and do this?" And like Reese with Inside Number 9, they're lovely, lovely people, genuinely lovely, and I call Reese gloriously grumpy because he is. He's just they're just great people, and like I said, I'm really I know how lucky I am to count them as friends.
But I'd say there must have been so much pressure for that last episode, with all the fan talk online, obviously, the pressure they must have been under for, how do we end this?
Exactly, and I think that's the difficulty for them, wasn't it? It was like, how do they end it on a big? And I think it's such a wonderful thing to actually have the rap party for Inside Number 9 as the last episode. It's so clever. It works so well, and it was great, and like I said, seeing people, Phil Daniels, I hadn't seen for a while, and it was like a party. So it was great to be there.
And Reed in the toilet, taking drugs to the toilet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Great. No, it's brilliant.
So you've got a lot of stuff coming up, Mark. Have you penciled in time to do The Glove with Jim and Bob?
Here we go.
Their film.
Well, apparently I'm still in it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been talking about The Glove for, oh my God,
forever.
Like 20 years.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, I think what happened is when we did Catterick, we had series 2 lined up. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but the BBC didn't want series 2 because I think they were making 1982 and they'd said something like, "Oh, we've got too much dark comedy, so we're not going to make another series," which I think is sacrilege. But so we were going to do that. That fell through, and then I think they had this idea. I always remember saying, "Oh, got this idea about we're all going to be like superheroes. We all got different like powers," and I think one of them, I think it was mine. My superpower was that I could shit rope. I can't remember if it was me or it was Bob, but that was one of the answers. But that didn't happen. And then I think that sort of developed into The Glove for that. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm still in it, which would be an absolute treat. I hope one day that we get to make it, because I think the script is hilarious. I just finished a cop show for Channel 4 called Patience, which I think is going to be good, based on a Belgian show. It's about a female police woman and a younger woman who works in the kind of records, and she's autistic, and it's that pairing. And I play the boss, so I come in and do my very stern DCI. We've done that. I did a little bit on a big new show for Apple, which I don't think I'm allowed to say what it is, but I did a little bit on that, which was wonderful. And I'm about to start a very funny show, hopefully, called Smoggy Queens, which is about drag queens in Middlesbrough, of which I am one. So I'm about to go off and film that start next week, and I'm going to be filming. I'm really happy that it's getting really warm and sunny, because I'm going to be in full drag.
Well, but back in the day, I think when I spoke to you, you were playing Edna in
yes,
Hairspray.
So,
I think.
Yeah, it's not new to me. I'm getting getting to enjoy it slightly too much.
It all goes back to that mermaid in Catterick.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I mean, the thing is, I don't care. So if something is funny, or if I'll have a go. I'll go for it. And I think with Smoggy Queen, it's written by a guy called Phil Dunning, who was a brilliant. He's a sketch comedian, and he wrote this thing, and it's brilliant because, and also I think the comedy it's quite irreverent. So for me, there's some stuff in there. It's a bit Vic and Bob, and it's one of those shows. I think a lot now, in my humble opinion, a lot of comedy now is not funny. You can watch it and you go, it's very clever, it's humorous, and the acting's brilliant, the writing's brilliant, but does it make me laugh out loud? Not a lot.
Yeah,
and that's a super generalization. Obviously there are some brilliant comedy out there, but I think the thing with this, we made the pilot, and it made me laugh out loud because it ranges from weird to just plain good old comedy.
Right.
So I love it because it's and people, it went out on social media and people saw the pictures and going, oh, this woke shit and all this, and you go,
God.
Wait till you see the show first, because it's the least woke program you'll ever see. It's absolutely it's not PC at all. It's just funny, and I think hopefully people will love these characters, and it's sort of a bit of a gang show, and I'm really excited. As you can tell, I'm really excited to get started on it because the scripts are great, the characters are great, and there's some great setups in it. So hopefully it'll be a big success for the Beeb.
Yeah, you seem to do a lot of cop shows, Mark. Do you know what I mean? You're a detective, or obviously you were in Father Brown, you did Midsummer, Death in Paradise. It seems it's a little bit of a pattern there.
Well, the wonderful thing about Death in Paradise was I got offered the part, and it wasn't a very good part. But my agent said to me, she went, it's the part's not great. She said, but you're probably going to film 2 or 3 days, and you'll be there for 2.5 weeks. So I was like, deal, I'm in. So basically, I spent 2.5 weeks. I filmed for I think 4 days. And the rest of the time, I just sat on the beach with Nigel playing it. It was absolutely 2 weeks of job. Man. But I mean, I don't know. Like when I said about crossing over, because Patience, I play it completely straight in Patience because I'm a boss. And that's the joy of touch wood, what I've been able to do. So I'll go from drama to, a drunken something else, to playing full drag, to playing a barman in the 40s with Mark Benton. So that's the joy that I like. I like to be able to do stuff, and I'm lucky enough, touch wood, to have been able to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I've said to you before, I love seeing you pop up in stuff, just randomly.
Yeah. It's quite depressing though when you see you pop up with something that you've done years ago and you look about 10. Yeah. You think, oh my God, where did my youth go?
You've done such a wide variety of stuff. In the Strictly stuff, I think you were about to go into Strictly. Was that just after Hairspray, wasn't it?
But it crossed over. I did the last 2 weeks of Hairspray was crossing over with Strictly.
Yeah, because I remember at the time you were like, I can't talk about my next project. I was like, we were like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah, no,
and then Strictly happened.
Yeah, no, it was. Well, I remember when they'd asked me about Strictly, and I'd said no because I didn't want to do. I'm still not really now interested in doing sort of reality stuff, not documentary or quizzes, because quizzes usually for charity. So, but like things like Strictly or The Jungle and things like that. And then they said, "Oh, will you meet them?" And I was doing Hairspray in Nottingham at the time, and I remember they came up on the train from London, and I met them on Nottingham train station in the Pumpkin Cafe, and we had a chat about it, and they were absolutely lovely. And the reason I did Strictly, I'm still trying to figure it out now, really, but I think it was because of the dancing. And the thing I loved the most about Strictly was when all the cameras were gone and it was just me and a veteran teaching me how to dance. And that they're the moments I'll treasure, not the terrifying. The worst bit is when you stood on stage and they show you little video you've made, and then you stood there waiting to start. And it's just terrifying. And then you hear, now dancing, whatever it is. Mark Benton and Veta Lugushu, that's the worst bit. It's absolutely terrifying.
I suppose that's as close as you got to doing the stand-up comedian thing. You say you're too scared to come out as yourself. You got to come out and dance.
I mean, the difference with that is it's out of your comfort zone. And I grew to, because I'd hurt my knees. I tore the cartilages above my knees, and I was in pretty much agony the whole time. And it was they wouldn't let us do any lifts because of insurance, so we kind of had to rely on acting and Iveta looking amazing. And I think why I enjoy because I knew I wouldn't win because I was struggling to walk, but it was great because it was a real sort of when we went out in week 10, it was a real sort of fate. I felt like I'd really accomplished something, I'd really lasted the time. So, and then went on to do the tour, which was great. So I did that. I had the whole Strictly experience, which was great, and I got to hang out with my mate. God bless his, God rest his soul, Dave Myers.
Oh yeah.
So, and I was lucky. My year was full of delightful people, really.
Yeah, but you were doing some dancing, weren't you, in Hairspray? I mean, even in the outfits.
Yeah.
You were dancing in the feather boas, and
Well, I remember once in Hairspray, I was because I had to put. I mean, I had a fat suit. Then I'd have a pair of like a slip, then like an underdress, and then like another dress. And at the end, there's a bit where I have to come out with the big hairspray thing at the bottom, and you go in there and you have to sit in there for 20 minutes. And I remember I got a bad tummy, and the thing is, you have to get in there because you can see you're in the middle of the stage, so you have to stay in there as a surprise to come out. So then I had a dresser at the time, and I opened the back door, and I was going, I need to come out, I need to go to the toilet. And she's chatting away at the side of the stage, and I'm going, I'm waving at her. Eventually she saw, then she crawled across the stage at the back, these ladders, these little steps to get me out. So then I ran down the steps, and I'm crouching to get off stage. I ran off stage, get the dresser, get this thing, but get the fat suit off. Just made the toilet, and all the time I can hear the music and the scenes going, coming close to my entrance. It's come close to my entrance. Oh. So anyway, I go to the toilet. Think, oh, thank God for that. Right, get the fat suit back on, get the slip back on, get the dress back on. Then I crawl across the stage, and the song is on that I'm about to sing. And I'm crawling, I'm running up the steps, running to the thing. Smart cue. Doors open. I forgot the words. So, these are the things that you don't see on stage.
The magic of theatre.
Wonderful experience, because I'd left Waterloo Road and not necessarily had the best of times on that, and I'm finished, and I kind of thought, I don't know what I want to do now. And Hairspray just came out of the blue. So would you be interested in doing Edinburgh and Hairspray? And I was like, what? Went and met them, had a bit of a sing, read some of the stuff, and then they said, I'd love you to do it. And I was like, yeah, great, why not? And it was one of the most joyous experiences I've ever been a part of. Yeah. If you do Hairspray, if you turn up in a bad mood, I guarantee you by the end of the show, you are in a good mood, because it's the most wonderful. In fact, it's almost a perfect musical for me. It has everything. It has the songs, the dances, the story, the message, the comedy. Just wonderful, wonderful time.
Before we go, I just want to say just thanks for Eddie in Early Doors, which
is
just one of the greatest sitcom characters. Another sitcom that finished well before its time, I think. Could have gone on for years, that one, I think.
There was a third one all set to go, and I think, I don't know what happened, but I don't know whether BBC didn't want to do it or something. I'm not sure, but it's still, that's another one. I think if I look back at series, Catterick and Early Doors are both way up there for me. Eddie was, and again, it's something at the time you don't realise, and it has Catterick. You'll start getting recognised from Catterick when students go back to university. I think a lot of students love that show, and the same with Early Doors. Early Doors has kind of garnered a big following, and we wanted to do it again, and I think we all still would do it again. I think even James McAvoy would come back and do it again, because it was a joyous, much like Catterick, it was a joyous experience, and we're all good friends now. And they did a live tour, and I couldn't do it because I was doing Shakespeare in Hathaway, and they kept moving the dates, and it was absolutely heartbreaking that I couldn't be part of it, because again, that's one of those jobs that is very special. yeah, for me. But who knows? You never know. One day someone might go, why don't we make another one and see where they are now? Exactly.
Talk about Catterick. It was we were talking to Matt Lucas, and he told us that you nearly killed him with the joke.
Samantha Janus joke. You remember it?
Samantha Janus, was it or something?
It was. Have you heard that Samantha Janus has changed her name? She's now called Samantha Jarsehole. Apparently, was your
Matt
joke.
Said he nearly died laughing.
He choked to death on because he was drinking at the time.
If you listen to this, Samantha, I deny all. Sure.
Yeah, she's a big fan of the podcast.
It's a good one. It's a good joke.
Honestly, Matt is so funny because he's a terrible. He laughed at it. Honestly, he's so funny. And again, so lovely, like they all are. But there's so many memories from that job that we were just, some of the things. I mean, imagine trying to act with Jim when he's doing, Tupperware. That character. The amount of times that poor Reese laughed, and because you can't. When something is so funny, you can't not laugh. And some of the things we had to do on that. Like when we were doing the sour faces when we were eating the goose dogs. After that, and I think actually on the program you see us actually laughing because and just moments that I'll treasure and I just wish we could have done more. But then again, Catterick, early doors, you go, if you'd done more, would it be so perfect in your memory?
Perfect.
Yes, I haven't said that. Yes, I would do it again at the drop of a hat. It would be brilliant. Yeah, no, I've been lucky. I've been really lucky.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. Do you know what I mean? You're so diverse. You never know, as I've said before, you never know what you're going to do next. You never know what to expect from you because it's always something unexpected.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think I would always class myself as a character actor. So the joy for me, I'm not a vain actor, as you can see from Catterick. But, that's the joy, isn't it? The joy is doing something different with everything. And in my own way, just going, I'll try something I've never tried before. But really lucky and really I will look out for Smoggy Queens. I think it's going to be
it looks good.
Going to be a laugh. Do you know what, guys? I think it's great you're doing a podcast about them because, like I said, for me, they're iconic. They are
so loved. I mean, anybody you talk to, even I was looking at some of the interviews that for the Inside Number 9, and Steve was saying about how much he loves Jim and Bob. They were kind of his comedy icons.
That's what I mean. I think they're like when I first met them, I was like, "You're icons. You're comedy."
Yeah.
It still makes me laugh now that say bacon without it sounding like Jamaican saying. No, be a can without without it sounding like a Jamaican saying bacon. I remember talking to Jim about their biggest influences and stuff, and Morecambe and Wise were right up there, I think. Which I was surprised because I was thinking he'd say sort of the Goons, Milligan, and that sort of thing, and he was Morecambe and Wise more, really.
I don't know, Jim was always compared to Eric, wasn't he? In the early.
Yeah. But I do think they're a one-off or a two-off or whatever you call it, because there isn't, it's they're like, aren't they? If you talk about their comedy, if you talk about any of their stuff, it's them. Like Coogan, if Partridge, it's a Partridge, and I think that's what sets them apart and what sets the greats apart because it's them.
Well, Catterick wouldn't have been as good as it was without yourself, Mark.
God bless you.
It's fantastic. And thanks for joining us. It was quite a boast.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
You can go off to the garden centre now and get some wicker shit.
Lots of books about military history.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Brilliant. Take care. See you later.
That was amazing. Cheers, Mark. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Cheers,
Lovely
guys.
to see you.
Thank you all for listening to this edition of Quite a Boast. Special thanks to Matt Lucas for permission to use the Peanuts music as our theme tune, and thanks to Ed Lewis for this edit. Thank you to Jake Chesham for permission to use the photo from his 1995 shoot of Jim and Bob in our various online locations for the podcast. And of course, thank you very much to Jim Moyer and Bob Mortimer, without whom this podcast, well, it just wouldn't exist, would it? Remember to check out Paula's Divine Comedians podcast as well, and to join the Reeves Mortimer Depository of Curious Stuff Facebook group. And I think you'll agree that really was a lot of fun. Goodbye.